Hello, everybody. Welcome to the newest podcast for the community of Kiowa Island. My name is Michael Heidingsfelder, and I'm a member of the Town Council of Kiowa Island. I have the great pleasure today to welcome an individual to our series that might not be so well known to everybody, but I have to say he has really become very important for the hospitality industry on Kiowa Island over the years. Don Semmler, the owner of the Annual Inn at Freshfields. Don, welcome. Thank you for making yourself available for this. I know you're traveling a lot, you're very busy, but I really appreciate that you're spending a little bit of time, both with me and then with the community, of course, to learn a little bit more about your business here in the Annual Inn and, how you came here and what you see in the future.
Great.
We, of course, are sitting here in the Annual Inn, a beautiful site at another beautiful day here on Kiowa. Let's start, as usual, Don, with the typical question, give a little bit of background. So who are you? What have you done in your life and your career? And how did you end up on Kiowa?
Be happy to. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great opportunity for me. And it's a really great story. I mean, I worked for Marriott now for some 40 years. I came right out of college, went to work for Marriott. They had, at that point, 36 hotels, one brand, one country. Today they have 8,000 hotels. They're in 102 countries. It's been just an exciting, super strong growth vehicle. And I came to build Andel Inn primarily because I fell in love with Kiowa first. To build it here is because I had friends. We were living in Atlanta at the time, and our friends said, "You've got to come see Kiowa." I had never heard of Kiowa. And we came and we did what everybody does. We fell in love. We rented houses. We stayed at the sanctuary. It was in the early 2000s, so the village had not been built yet. After a couple of years of spending time here, we bought a piece of land in Cassique. We really loved that community, and we were meeting with architects, and we had it for a couple of years. Then we had twins, and I just thought, I don't know how often I'll be able to get out there. So we sold the land. But after I retired from Marriott, I came back to I went in and said hi to my realtor, Ellen Walkley, who works for Kiowa Island Real Estate. She's fabulous. And I just said, the village was just completed. And I said, do you think there's a hotel entitlement in the village? She says, I think there is. I think there might be. She gave me the leasing agent's number, and I called them. 6 months later, I had an LOI. 6 months after that, we had an agreement. So that's and my idea for this hotel was something that came out of my work with Marriott. So I was executive vice president for global brands. And one of the things that I did with Mr. Marriott in that job was he thought he wanted to get into the lifestyle boutique business, and he thought we should get a partner. So there weren't many people that had done lifestyle hotels at that point in time. Andre Balaz, we met with Andre. Then we met with Ian Schrager. And Ian Schrager is generally credited with being the father of boutique hotels. And after a couple of meetings, we decided to partner with Ian and do Marriott's first real lifestyle hotel with the Edition brand. It was very exciting. I learned an awful lot from Ian that I hadn't learned with Marriott. Bill Marriott and Ian Schrager have radically different backgrounds, but they're both fantastic businessmen, great people. Bill Marriott, and what I learned with him is operational excellence. Take care of the customer, make sure you're very employee-centered. And Mr. Marriott's a very functional, good designer, but he's very functional, or he's thinking about making sure that everything works properly. When I started work with Ian and went to see all these new lifestyle boutique hotels, I saw a dramatically different approach with aesthetics and scent and artwork and music and ways of making people feel unique and special with design and interior design and decor. And so the idea for Andel Inn is that I wanted to do a hotel that combined both. It had a lot of operational excellence, that worked really well, that had sort of my blue chip background with Marriott, and also incorporated custom interior design, beautiful playlist, great music, artwork that rotates quite frequently to try and make people feel like it was a very special place.
And it is, I have to say.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Don, I lived in Michigan many years, as we spoke about earlier. So I was curious, how did you ended up in Michigan State as your alma mater?
Well, I grew up in Michigan, not far from where you lived for a while there. I lived just outside of Detroit. And when I was 17, my dad, he was a businessman. And but he sat down with me and gave me a performance evaluation, really. And he said, look, you like people. I was kind of funny when I was a kid. I could make people laugh. You're a hard worker. And he went into this, explanation that, Detroit's a manufacturing capital, but he said it's moving dramatically now, the world of business, into service. And Michigan State was right there. And so he said, why don't you consider going to Michigan State's hotel school? And I never looked back. I thought, great evaluation, and I trusted my dad, and I went to Michigan State, and I really love the industry.
Ever since,
I really love.
Because you went right from school to Marriott.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So no, it's been exciting. It's given me a lot of travel. It's given me a lot of different experiences, and I'm really grateful that my dad helped me get into that field.
Okay. So now with all of this background with Marriott, and I've been a frequent customer of Marriott, of course, like many here on the island that have been in business. It was always a very functional location, but everything but unique, right? Everything, I mean, you could walk into whatever brand and you immediately could recognize, okay, this is, a Marriott so-and-so. You explained a little bit, how your company and yourself came to that, more lifestyle-oriented hotel design thing, and talked a little bit about the uniqueness. But I want to dive a little deeper into this. So what do you think makes this place so much different to either Marriott hotels or hotels in general? So what are the key spices, the key ingredients to make this a successful concept?
Well, Michael, you said it perfectly. The hotel industry definitely overinvested in consistency, and all the customer research would say, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, maybe a little different color palette, but you're essentially all the same. And there's this emerging realization that customers really wanted to be inspired. They wanted to go to hotels that would give them design ideas for their home, and they would give them different feelings of, yes, comfort and care, but also something unique and special. And we have moved now into an experience economy. So people are looking for things that are rare, that are not repeatable, that, meet, that really work for them. Our approach here was to design this hotel for very discerning hotel guests. I always laugh, say, really, I built it for me. For our demographic is a little bit older. I travel with Marriott and stayed in the best hotels in the world, so we have a discerning guest. We wanted to make sure they thought it was just, really, really beautiful. So we worked with Marriott. At the time, I had just, we did the Edition brand, and then I put together the idea of the Autograph Collection, which was a new product for Marriott that basically said, look, we want to go get interesting hoteliers to sign up for that franchise agreement. They could run the hotel any way they wanted, so long as it had fire life safety and it had guest satisfaction thresholds and those kind of things met. And it was super successful. And today it's one of the fastest growing parts of lodging, this soft branded idea. So I had watched all that happen, and I'd been inspired by the lifestyle experience, the guest experience. And so we thought, let's do it, but let's do it in a high return model. A high return hotel model really means that most of our revenue comes out of rooms revenue. In order to do that really well, it's really fantastic to have all these restaurants, all the retail. A single resort could never build this kind of an amenity structure, which allowed us to focus on the guest stay experience a little bit more. We hired we talked to Marriott, and I said, would you like to do Autograph 2 for high return hotels? They said, let's just do a pilot. And so they said, I wanted guest rooms that had kitchens and living rooms because I think that functionality is really important for a stay. And so the Residence Inn brand by Marriott had kitchens and living rooms, and they said, let's do a soft-branded Residence Inn. So my guest rooms are very similar, all custom furniture and fixtures, but the full kitchen and the living room and the guest rooms are very similar to the Residence Inn. But this was entitled as an independent boutique luxury hotel in this master development here. And so we decided, okay, the soft brand, you don't have to name it Residence Inn. You don't have any Residence Inn collateral. Independently named, independently operated, custom designed. And so we went to work on it and did, we just feel really blessed. This hotel turned out to be really, really good.
And I mean, it's very inspiring how you talk about this experience. So has it become what you envisioned at the end? I mean, you have a vision, you talk about what you wanted to accomplish. Have you accomplished it? And has it become, a successful business as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's remarkably, you really have a lot of energy when you're doing something on your own, and you have sort of you do see it's not the details. Everything was new that we put in here, and we had to create it. But the idea and the positioning turned out to be really exactly what we'd hoped it would be. The most important part of this for me as an owner-operator is that the guest satisfaction levels are extraordinary. And so this hotel is in the top 1% of guest satisfaction rankings of all Marriott hotels worldwide.
Wow.
So just to scale that, there's 8,000 Marriott hotels, 80 of them are in the top 1%. And this hotel has been in the top 1% of guest satisfaction for 10 years in a row. So we're probably one of the highest guest satisfaction hotels that Marriott's ever had.
Okay.
That, to me, is super rewarding.
Yeah.
And it sort of bounces back that all the work we do, we change light bulbs. We have all our lighting is on computer scenarios. We have 5 different scenarios during the day. You won't see the change, but it's obviously brighter in the morning, and it gets a little bit more moody in the evenings. It changes really slowly, so you're not aware of it. I pick every song that's played on the playlist, and I'm not a great musician, but I have a certain feel for what I want and the cadence of the music, and that it wasn't overplayed, and, it's worked out pretty well. We get good comments on that. The art that we have in the lobby is all changing with different exhibits. Hotels are somewhat like a retail window. You can't just keep it the same all the time. You've got to keep it fresh and different. We do that with the artwork. Lighting levels and light fixtures are really important to us. And then we had to, see how guests used the space. And so initially we have extensive outdoor porches. We didn't know exactly how guests would use them, but then we watched them. And so the cabana was important to get out of the sun. The porch that goes along the side by the lake, where the rocking chairs are, that's where the individuals with a book or the couples with a bottle of wine. Then further down, we made that the outdoor breakfast seating area. So you can design everything you can think about when you're originally white sheeting the hotel, but you also have to then watch the way people use it, move things around, make it better, change things quite often. If you do that and you do it well, then I think people really appreciate it.
And if you are an owner that is passionate about this and
it's really
maybe
important.
spend the time to watch the guests.
When you think about the owner, yes, the owner-operator model is important.
Yeah.
Lauren Beadle is an owner-operator. He's done fantastic things in the village. Richard Hagee does Hagee's. He's done a fantastic job with that restaurant. When it's your kid's education and your livelihood, you really want to pay attention to everything you possibly can. The other really nice thing is that before we opened the hotel, I hired some Arthur Andersen folks to do an economic impact study. So I had done some work with little smaller retail villages before, and I knew there was value back and forth. And so they came in and they did a study that said, look, for every $1 of guest room rental that you have here, your guests will spend $1.50 in the village.
Really?
And 50 cents playing golf and doing things outside of the village. So every time we get a visitor here, it's got an economic multiplier that's beneficial to everybody in the village and everybody in the community.
That's fantastic. Now, let's talk a little bit about maybe a little more somber note. So I think we all remember probably about a year ago, and you will remember it more than anybody, of course, and that somebody had the idea to build a storage unit, reach a large storage complex right beside your property. I still remember the morning when I was reading it, and I said, well, I can't repeat this was French. But so I was astounded. So how did you realize it, learned about it? What was your feeling, and how did this probably mostly ill-born idea died for the benefit of the
everything you
community?
said, everything you said is pretty accurate. But I think the upside story of this is that this has a very specific master development plan. And when it was envisioned, it said it had to add value to the residents. It had to be valuable to visitors, day visitors and overnight visitors. And that very specific uses were identified. There was so much retail, so much residential. The hotel was entitled. And that project, when it came in, was outside of that master plan. So I'm imagining that what I do know about it, I'm not expert on it, but I think the people came and made a very attractive offer to the partners. And they had a previous business relationship with one of their other developments that they had. And they were willing to sort of let him give it a try, introduce his concept, and see if at some point in time they could get a waiver. They would have required a waiver.
Yeah.
In the end, it didn't make sense, because the way that the master plan is developed is everything that comes in here should add value back to the village and we couldn't see the value add.
Yeah.
If contractors are lined up to get all their supplies out in the morning and people come back and forth during the day, they're not here to shop, and they're not necessarily here to look at real estate or to spend money. And so I think it just took it just naturally moved along because there was really good pre-planning.
Yeah.
And that'll come up with the Andel track right next door.
Yeah.
That careful planning makes sure that it's valuable for everybody.
And community involvement and being willing to listen to what people say, what investors are saying, like you. I mean, you have a big stake here in Freshfields like others.
Right.
And I think listening to these different stakeholders is very important. And I think we can all be happy that this passed over in a few months. But it was a little bit of a shock. But I absolutely agree with you. Now in my new job, I had to learn a lot of things as well. And I worked myself into, the details of a planned development, because also, as you said, Endel West, the addition to Freshfields, is going to be the same planned development. And it's a very, very thoughtful, very forward-looking, strategic kind of way of defining how a larger property is going to be developed and look like and feel and benefit the community. So,
and I would say this too, that, when I look at, we use the surrogate for success when we think about planning and communities, and is really, and Buddy Darby, taught me this in the very beginning, the value of the real estate, the people that live here, the value of their real estate has to be lifted with everything that happens. He built this village because he knew it would be this is a very special village. You can't find something like this in the United States. And they would add value to the homeowner.
Absolutely.
So long as we keep that in mind, then I think more often than not, we'll make the right decisions.
Very thoughtful, Don. Thank you. So, Endel Inn, great success. What comes next? Anything plan you kind of talk about? Anything? I mean, will there be a second Endel Inn, or what is the idea?
Well, there was a second Andel Inn. Our second hotel project that we developed and built and designed and operated was Hotel Bella Grace downtown, right across from Mother Emanuel Church. And that was a very rewarding project for us. We're very faith-based, and, having that, we had secured the land for that hotel before the shooting in the church. It gave us, obviously we had to calculate that in, but when we watched the response to the shooting, where the families forgave the shooter, very Christ-like act, and Obama came and did the eulogy and said, He mentioned grace 14 times in his speech, and he sang Amazing Grace was the church. That became the branding impetus for that hotel, and we fought really hard to get Hotel Bella Grace is the name of that hotel. There were some conflicts with another hotel company called Grace Hotels, and I went and met the CEO, and he gave me special permission to do it that one time, use that name in that hotel. So that was our second project. We sold it. It did really well for us. We sold it a couple of years later. We're small. We do one hotel at a time. We spend a lot of time in the hotels. I lived in this hotel. I had a room for the first 5 years. I was here 5 days a week. So we can't do a lot all at once, but we do have a new project. We love it. I can't give you any details because we're still in pre-development, but it's in South Carolina, and it's something that I think people would like.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to that one as well.
Thank you so much.
When we talked prior to this podcast, we talked, of course, also a lot about what all of us, are concerned about, right? Community members, investors, retail, owners and operators, etc. And I thought you had a lot of really important insights, what you look at, how our island has changed, how John's Island has changed in particular, how this all is causing traffic and environmental issues and concerns, etc. Can you share with us a little bit about what you're mostly concerned about and what that will mean for our future and how you think we should mitigate?
I'm more optimistic than concerned because I've watched the way this community develops. People are informed. They pay attention. They give a lot of input. There are master development plans. You obviously don't want to make any big mistakes, but since we've been here now, the hotel's been open for 10 years. And in those 10 years, I looked at all the assets that have been added to the community, and it's been very lifting. They've all been fantastic projects. We came in, and there's been new retail here, Blue Mercury, Lululemon. Lauren's done the wine bar, which has been a great success for the community. We added the Timbers, which is a 6-star fractional unit. I mean, it's fantastic right on the beach. It's been very successful. The Cape, those units are now selling for $3 to $4 million a unit. That's a very successful development on the beach. The partners are now building a new golf course in a community off island, but something to help that private club membership, which keeps getting better and better. Plans for the West Beach. Bill Goodwin and his group constantly reinvesting in what they do over on the island and bringing those golf tournaments to this area. I mean, I have seen very few mistakes. This idea of the senior living, Seafields with MUSC, another medical clinic, these are all things that create a more and more special environment for us. So I'm confident that future development will be managed well just because we have a long history of it, and we have a lot of people that really want this to work and to be a fantastic, very special place for people to work and to visit and to live.
Okay, great. Thank you. Before we close, anything else you want to add? Something that's on your mind that you want to share with the community?
No, I think what I just said is the most important thing. I've watched it. I know there are a lot of different points of view on everything that happens in this community, but that's part of the success. Is if something isn't quite right, everybody's, gets involved. The town of Kiowa, the people that work at the town are fantastic. They're helpful. They communicate with all of us. And so my sense is, yes, the population is coming this way. We're going to have, but it beats the alternative, right? The alternative is no one's interested. Nobody wants to make investments, and we're sort of remoted, and the value of the real estate doesn't go up as much. So I'm confident. I think that it's going to grow. It's going to grow well. It's definitely a community of islands now because particularly South Johns Island has a big impact. And what I've seen so far on traffic mitigation and those kind of things, we need more infrastructure here, no question, but I think that we'll manage it, and this will continue to, it's really when you go up and down the East Coast and look at the best places to live and the best communities, the ones that are growing and getting better, I think we stand out. I think we look really good.
Definitely. Don, thank you very much for spending the time with us here this morning. I'm certain the community will appreciate your insights and your stories and put things in perspective as an investor, here on the island. So thank you very much for this insight. Well, and this was another of our podcast sessions for the community of Kiowa Island. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. There will be more of those podcasts coming, so stay tuned. Watch our website, watch the e-newsletter coming around every Friday, and you will be notified about the newest podcast. There are a lot of really interesting people we will bring to you in the coming months. So thank you again for tuning in and watching. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.